Greetings, everyone. Today we are going to be going through these review lessons. It's the beginning of Algebra 1. These videos are intended if you need support from pre-algebra on solving equations and inequalities. So this is the beginning of a very large video, so make sure to have your notes ready to go. Make sure to fast forward, rewind, pause when needed. Let's get started. The first section we are looking at is solving 1- and 2-step equations. Now I'll go pretty quick through this since it is review. Let's go over a quick vocabulary. When we are talking about the number in front of a variable, that is called a coefficient. The number in front of a variable is a coefficient. When we're talking about a letter, we don't just say letter in math, we call it a variable. And if a number is by itself, nothing is being multiplied or divided by it, it can be added or subtracted. That is called a constant. Now, what you want to get used to is as I'm going quickly through these, if I get to the end and you're not ready, make sure to hit pause. Quick review. To undo addition, we want to subtract. To undo subtraction, we want to add. Inverse operations, right? To undo multiplication, we want to divide, and to undo division, we want to multiply. Again, those are inverse operations, or a lot of times we like to say opposite operations. All right, so quick review of solving one step. Now you'll notice throughout my equations, I like to draw a line down the equal sign. To undo any subtracting 10, we want to add 10. Now when I ask you to show work, that's what I'm looking for. Show me the operation you're performing. I need to kick the 3 to the other side. Instead of dividing by 3, we want to multiply by 3. The inverse operation causes that cancellation and a calculation. All right, let's start solving 2-step equations. Now, when solving 2-step equations, we're going back to our PEMDAS acronym, meaning the order of operations. Now, I like to write it like this because we work left to right, but remember for multiply, divide, we do whatever's first, and to do addition and subtraction, we do whatever's first. Now, that's for simplifying. We are solving. Solving means we do the opposite. We are doing the opposite. That means we want to undo any addition or subtraction first. All right, so I'm going to, instead of subtract 8, add 8. And the last step, instead of times 3, we want to divide by 3. Now, on this next one, you'll notice that there is variables on both sides. And so I still want to think, can I add or subtract first? Well, I sure can, but I'm going to be subtracting a letter from a letter, right? Like terms, okay? And so we arrive at just 3x. Now, just take a note. Take a moment to look at this, all right? Be very careful about which one you're moving. I have students that'll move the 9.4, but notice how I drew that black line? If I move the 9.4, I'd be empty. There'd be nothing over there. Well, I can't have an empty side of an equation or scale. And so that's why I chose the 6.4, because I need something on both sides. Also notice that we keep the x. Like terms remain like terms. If it's a coefficient, it remains a coefficient. Okay, we have one more step, similar to the last problem. Instead of times 3, divide 3. It is 100% okay to have fractions. Now in Algebra 1, we leave them as improper. Improper fraction means a reduced number over number. All right, let's keep thinking about that PEMDAS. If you needed to, make sure you write that down on the side of your paper. I like to draw the line. Instead of subtract 2, we're going to add 2. 3/4 x equals 3. Now here you have some options. Your previous math teacher probably taught you to deal with that fraction. Well, you know what? I'm okay with you wanting to make it easier. What I mean by that is if I read this, this reads as divide by 4. So instead of divide 4, I'm going to times 4. Okay. Now, if you know another way to solve that, awesome. The 3 and the x just fall down, and I've got a 12. See how that looks easier? If you're solving it with fraction rules, perfect. Keep doing that. It doesn't have to match exactly because you are going to be showing me your work. Now, this next one is a little special. It doesn't follow those perfect PEMDAS rules because I can't add or subtract that 4. You know why? The 3 is in the way. If you have a huge, and this is a MortVet thing, if you have a huge problem, a huge division bar, I call that a huge problem. You got to get rid of it. Instead of a divide 3, you got to times 3, right? If it's in the way of everything, it has to move. Okay? Now my problem looks normal. Now instead of adding a negative 4, I'm going to subtract a negative 4. But what is subtracting a negative again? Remember, this is a review video. This should come naturally. Double negative means positive. So I have x equals 34. All right, this next one. This looks a little different. Look at that left side. These are like terms. I have 2 variables. So let's combine them right away. Let's combine them. If I have 1/3 and 5/3, remember in order to add fractions, you need a common denominator or a calculator. Get familiar with yours. And then we add the numerators. So this would get me 6/3. See how I did that? Oh, well 6/3 is just 2. If I add those fractions and practice using your calculator, I just get 2x. So that's not bad. If I can put stuff together and do expression work first, I need to. And my typical last step, instead of times 2, let's divide 2. Don't forget your positive and negative rules. All right, next one here. I don't want to move the 25, right? My inclination is to add 25, but I can't add it, right? I need to move the x. Currently, this is a positive 2x, so I'm going to minus 2x. I'm moving the variable. I'm moving the variable because that's what's on the other side. And so negative 25 drops down. Do you see how I kept that together? So be careful with your positives and negatives. Slow down and re-listen to this if you need to. And instead of times 5, let's divide 5. So that gets us negative 5. All right, and the last one here, if I draw my line, I can take care of addition or subtraction pretty easily. Instead of plus 3, minus 3. And instead of divide 2, let's times by 2. So we get a nice clean 8. Again, if any of these threw you off, take a moment to pause, rewind, and just listen. This should be the end of your first section. And so take a look. Do you have everything filled out? Are you supposed to move on? Are you ready for the next section? Let's get going. Our next section is solving multi-step equations. Let's start off with some rules. We've talked about all of these rules in the previous section, but now let's sort of put some order to them. All right, let's put all of these thoughts together. Step 1, if there's any distribution involved, parentheses, make sure you take care of that first. Step 2, if you have anything on the left side of the equation that can go together, or anything on the right side that can go together, take care of that. It's not an absolute, but it will make things easier. So these steps are going to make it so it's the path of least resistance. Step 3, Move variables, meaning add or subtract variables to the other side. I'm going to put a little plus minus. That's how we move them. We add or subtract the letters. Step 4, you're going to add or subtract just plain old numbers, right? So now we're truly looking at the PEMDAS backwards. And lastly, undo any multiplication or division of plain numbers. Okay. Now, off to the right there, I put it on my notes. You can see this little acronym. I don't know, it just works sometimes. That silly little saying is, don't call me after midnight. D-C-M-A-M. D stands for distribute, C stands for combine, M stands for move, A stands for add, subtract. The last M is multiply or divide. So if you're someone who does well with little tricks and ways to remember, don't call me after midnight is one of those. All right, let's get started on our examples. I still like to draw my line. A lot of times I'll write my acronym at the top of my homework or my notes just to help me remember. So I have no distribution. I can't combine anything over on the left because those are unlike terms. There's no variable to move because there's only one. So I'm jumping right to add or subtract. Instead of plus 4, let's minus 4. Now, if you know how to solve this using the reciprocal of my fraction, you are welcome to do that, and I can show you that separately. I'm going to split this fraction up, and I'm going to say instead of divide 4, let's get rid of that huge denominator, and let's multiply by 4. So you can split up improper fractions. And undo any multiplication or division. So our last step, instead of times 3, the inverse is divide 3. All right, our next one is unique. Here is that instance where if I can't follow my steps, I have a huge division bar. If everything's being divided, then everything needs to be multiplied. Now be careful, these are opposite. Don't distribute a 2, no. Divide 2 times 2 cancels. Okay, divide 2 times 2 cancels on that side. I should only ever be multiplying one side. Hey, now this looks like a normal problem. Instead of add 4, let's minus 4. Drop down. Now notice how I'm showing all my work vertically, okay? It's going to make it more seamless. I want to see all these steps. If you show steps another way, I'd like you to show me in person because there are, I am aware, apps and things that'll do this for you. They show things differently than we do. And so I might be left to assume things, right? So please show work, follow along as I do. If you have learned it differently in the past, please show me in person. All right, next example. This one's a little misleading, right? I have parentheses, which means I have distribution. But what number is technically touching those parentheses? What number's there? A 1. There's a negative 1 here. I need to distribute a negative 1 to eliminate parentheses. Maybe put a star by this one. I have a feeling that's going to catch a few of you. And so let's drop down, right? Like I didn't even use the 4 or the equals or the 12, right? By distributing, negative 1 times positive 2 is negative 2x. Negative 1 times positive 6 is negative 6. So there's my distribution. Step 2 is combine. I'm looking at those steps in our notes. Combine, meaning look at this. When two numbers are on the same side and they can just go together, take care of it. This is called just straight combining. 4 subtract 6 is negative 2. Right? I just combined them. And then whatever's left over just falls down. Okay? Now you'll notice I like to underline when I combine like terms. See how I underlined the 4 and negative 6? I do that so I remember what's left to fall down. All right, that's just a me thing. You don't have to show the underlining, but maybe it'll help. Next step, we want to undo any addition or subtraction. So instead of minus 2, let's add 2. Now this looks like a normal problem. That gets me to a 14. And my typical last step, instead of times negative 2, we're going to divide by negative 2. Watch your signs, negative 7. All right, let's take a look at our next one. Again, pause if needed, okay? I have parentheses. I need to distribute. What am I distributing? A negative 4. Negative 4. See how I circle it so I don't forget the sign? And sometimes I drop down, right? Look at that. I didn't use any of those numbers. So bring them down. Negative 4 times positive 2 is negative 8x. Negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. Okay, double negatives. Step 2, combine. I have things that go together. A 9 and a 4 make a 13. Didn't use this, didn't use this, didn't use this. I don't have any move, like I only have one variable. Let's undo any addition or subtraction. Instead of a positive 13, I'm going to minus 13. Why? Because that negative belongs to the 8, not the 13. If we subtract, we have 32. And we're going to undo any multiplication or division. And so instead of times negative 8, we're going to divide negative 8. That gets us to x equals negative 4. Okay, these ones are getting tougher, right? So again, consider pausing, put your pencil down, and just listen. All right, let's take a look at this ridiculous one here. Think of our steps. I like my little acronym, it just helps me process. First, distribute. We're distributing a negative 2 3 times. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2w. Oops, that's not good writing. Let's try that again. Positive 2w. Negative 2 times positive 2 is negative 4w. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. See how I got that positive? Maybe make that stand out. Next step, combine. If you have 3 things, you guys, you have combining, right? But what can I combine? W's or numbers? W's. And give the letter a word, right? Like if I say I have 2 watermelons and I take away 4 watermelons, I've got negative 2 watermelons, right? You can say W, but sometimes it's handy to just put a little word in there. Okay, drop down the 6, drop down the 30. Now this looks normal. I don't have any moving of a variable, so instead of adding or subtracting, I'm going to minus the 6. And instead of times negative 2, we're going to divide negative 2. See how our last step is almost always dividing, right? That's not on purpose. It's just kind of common. So I don't know, if anything, if you get stuck, think it's the last step, I'm probably going to divide. All right, let's take a look at this next one. Let's apply our rules to some geometry. Let's read through it first to get an idea in our minds. Write an equation and solve for x. All right, so I'm just going to prep. I need an x equals answer, right? That's my goal, and I don't want to forget about it. All right, write an equation and solve for x. If the area, that sounds important, of the rectangle is 60, that means equals 60. Okay, so first let's talk about this area of a rectangle. Area of a rectangle is length times width. Now, yes, you're expected to know that or quickly look it up as far as basic geometry shape rules, right? You've learned these before. It's something you can do a quick search and remember those rules, right? All right, our area is 60. Is 60. That means my A is 60. Okay. The length, I'm going to say my length is this part. It's the 6. And I'm going to say my width is this, all of this. All of my width is 2x plus 4. 60 is 6 times the quantity 2x plus 4. All right, let's get to solving. Now we can do our solving steps. Distribute first. I don't have any combining. I don't have any moving. So let's go to our basic solving. Keep your equation balanced. And my last step, typical, is division. And when I divide, I get a perfect 3. We solved for x. We answered the question. Now be careful. Sometimes you might be asked, hey, if this side is 6, what's this side? Oh, I could plug 3 in. Let's see. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. Huh, that seems reasonable, right? This being 10 would make sense. All right, this example, I just realized we've done one similar, so I'm going to skip this one. Look around your notes to figure that one out. Let's jump to this one. Alrighty, draw a line down the equal sign. Think about your acronym. It helps you remember your rules. First step, distribution. Nope, there is none. Second step, combine. I do. I have a regular number and a regular number. If I combine those together, I have negative 10. Okay? Whatever wasn't combined, whatever wasn't used, falls down. Next step, move variable. I don't have many of that. Next step, undo any addition or subtraction. I'm going to add 10. Oh, weird. Okay, I wanted it to cancel here, right? And the 7m falls down. But look at that left side. I can't just cross it off, right? Like my equation needs something. What is negative 10 plus 10? 0. That's okay. 0 is a number, you guys. And so maybe put a star by this one. I just want you to get used to the fact that 0 is okay. Still go through the steps. You're not done. Instead of times 7, divide 7. 0 divided by any number is 0. Be okay with the 0. And the last one in this section, let's go through our steps. First step, distribute. Don't let the fact that it's a half throw you off, you guys. Halves are easy. What's half of 12? 6. What's half of, remember of means multiply, half of 30? 15. Okay, don't let the fraction throw you off, all right? Next step, combine. Nope. Move. Nope. Add or subtract. Yes. Instead of taking away 15, let's add on 15. That gets us to, is that right? 33? Okay. And lastly, undo any multiplication or division. If I divide by 6, wait a second. Does 33 divide by 6? It doesn't. Now, here's what I don't want. I don't want a decimal here, you guys. No decimals, right? I want a reduced or simplified improper fraction. I want a numerator and a denominator, okay? What can I cut both of these down by? That's how I reduce my fractions. I can cut them both by 3. If I cut them both by 3, I get 11 over 2. 11 over 2. That's a improper reduced fraction. All right, that's the end of our multi-step equations. You'll notice we didn't do step 3 on any of these. That's because That's going to show up on the next one. Alrighty, so again, pause. Do you have everything filled out? Do you have questions? Do you need to look up anything else? Or do you need to re-listen to anything else? Okay, please take care of your needs as you need them. All right, everybody, we are taking a look at our next review area, solving equations with variables on both sides. We are looking, currently we have it listed as EI2. So when you open your notes, make sure you're in the right spot, and let's fill in our steps again. Now, this is a review of the last unit. I like this silly little acronym. If it helps you, don't call me after midnight. D is distribute. C is combine like terms. M is move a variable, more specifically add or subtract your variables. Step 4, add or subtract. Step 5, multiply or divide. See how that works out? Get to memorizing those. All right, let's move into our examples. Don't call me after midnight. And so if I take a look, there's no distribution. I can't combine left, I can't combine right. We're really starting to concentrate on this move variable. Move variable. You have two options. I could move the 8K, or I could jump the 5K. What sounds easier? You honestly get to pick here, okay? Your work could look slightly different than mine. What sounds easier, subtracting 5K or subtracting 8K? Yeah, I think the 5 as well. So I'm going to say instead of positive 5K, minus 5K. Now, do you see how I kicked it over the line and I lined it up under the other variable? We didn't use the negative 2. We didn't use the positive 4. We just took 8 kangaroos and subtracted 5 kangaroos and got 3 kangaroos. All right, now it looks typical, right? Undo any addition or subtraction. Instead of plus 4, minus 4. Drop down what you didn't use. And my last step, typical, undo any multiplication or division. Instead of times 3, divide 3. And that gets us our answer of negative 2. Next, let's go through our steps. No distribution, so we can get rid of that. No combining, because the left side doesn't have anything and the right side doesn't have anything. Move variable. Move variable. What sounds easier, subtracting 2w or subtracting 2w? Wait a second, look at how that looks. They're the same. This is special. Put a star by that. Subtracting 2w and subtracting 2w cancels both of them. Okay, this is weird, but drop down. Drop down negative 10, drop down negative 9. All of our variables disappeared. This is a special one. It has a special answer. If I asked you, is negative 10 equal to negative 9? You'd be like, no, they're not, Morfett. You're right, they're not. And so I have a special answer. And that special answer is no solution. No solution. I want to see no solution if they're not equal. Now, this happens because what that means is there's no number in the world that'll make this equation work. It's just a bad equation. Nothing works. All right, let's try out this next one here. Let's go through our steps. If the acronym is helpful, use it. We're going to distribute first. 2 times 1, 2 times 2. Throw a letter on it. Ooh, some of you might notice something, but I want to see your work. Combine. Nothing to combine on the left or the right. Move variable. Move variable. Instead of positive 4x, you can see what's happening here, right? I'm subtracting 4x. Wait a second. This is another one of those special answer ones. If they both cancel, still drop down, right? I have a positive 2 here and a positive 2. Is positive 2 equal to negative 2? Or excuse me, is positive 2 equal to positive 2? Yes, that's true. That's good. That's a good equation. And so what that means, yes, I need all three of these words. We have infinite many solutions. You've heard this before. Infinite many solutions. What that means is I could plug 3 in for x. It works. I could plug in negative 500. It works. I could plug in 47.3 and it works. No matter what number, it's going to work. All right, this next one. We have a huge division bar. Remember this? Anytime the entire side is being divided, the entire side needs to be multiplied. But see what I just did there? I had to do parentheses. It's an expression. Dividing by something and timesing by something on the same side gets rid of it. Look at what we have left here, right? If I drop down, there's that x plus 3. And now I have 2 parentheses x minus 3. That's ready to go. That looks normal, right? Like, let's go through our steps here. Now that we made it look normal, step 1, distribute. Oh, that's easy. 2 times x, 2 times negative 3. Drop down. Combine. There's nothing to combine. Move variable. Ooh, I get a choice. Technically, this has a 1, right? You honestly get to pick. Do you want to subtract 1x? Or do you want to subtract 2x? Right? If one of them sounds easier, choose that one. Get that? Instead of positive 1x, I'm going to minus 1x. What that leaves me with is 1x. Okay, I got to avoid negatives as well, you guys. Adding and subtracting. Instead of minus 6 plus 6. Now, some of you will be okay being done here. Some of you are going to go through the motions, and instead of times 1, divide 1. That's fine. Like, I'm still going to get 9 either way. All right? So that one's unique with that huge denominator. Oh my goodness, look at these long examples, but let's go for it, okay? You might have to write a little smaller to fit them in. Step 1, distribute. We have a few steps of distribution here. All right, a third of 3. A third of 3 is 1. A third of 12 is 4. You see how I got that? You guys, all I did was divide by 3. That's all a third does. And then I didn't touch the 5. Ooh, I got to distribute again. 2x and 16. If I didn't use it, it falls down. Okay. Step 2, combine. Okay, look at that left side. What goes together? This goes together. Negative 4 plus 5 is 1. Let's look at the right side. If I have 2 xylophones and I subtract 1 xylophone, I have 1 xylophone. If I have a negative 16 and a positive 17, that's a positive 1. See how the underlines help me stay organized? They also show me that I need to drop down that 1x. I didn't use it. Step 3, move a variable. Instead of a positive 1x, I'm going to minus 1x. Oh, wait, by undoing, it canceled both of them. I have a positive 1 equal to a positive 1. If all the variables cancel, right? Like if I can't get a pretty x equals answer, special answer, 1 is equal to 1. That is true. That is good. That means we have infinite many solutions. Yes, you need to write out the words. Bear with me. You might have to write a little smaller. You might have to be organized. So maybe like be a little careful with your work, with showing your steps. I'm going to write a little smaller. Distribute. Let's distribute -2. And let's distribute, look it, that's a -3, -3. Okay, see how that worked out? And let's drop down. All right. Step 2, combine. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on here, right? Okay. X's can combine. 10 xylophones minus 1 xylophone is 9 xylophone. I'm not moving them, you guys. If they're on the same side, it's just what it is. You read it as it is. 10x minus 1x, right? It's not special. I have a +9 and a -11. That's -2. Okay, let's look at the right side. A -4x and a -6x. Just put them together, -10x. Okay. I have a -8 and a +6. -2. Okay, not special. When you are combining, that's the easiest part because we're going back so many grades to just say put things together. All right. Next step, move variable. You get a choice. What sounds easier? Should I subtract 9x or should I add 10x? Yeah, addition, I don't know. A lot of times addition is just easier for me. So your work can look different than mine here. That's okay. Make sure we get the same answer. So I'm going to have 19 x's. Drop down, drop down, drop down. Next step, undo any addition or subtraction. Instead of -2, +2. Now, some of you are going to want to drop down and then cancel that right side, but I can't have nothing, right? Like I always need something on both sides of the equation. -2 + 2 is 0. 0 is okay. Keep going. Last step. Undo any multiplication or division. Instead of times 19, divide 19. 0 divided by anything is 0. Okay, that's an okay answer. You're not wrong. You still have a letter. Keep going. All right, let's take a look at this one. This is a little misleading, right? Like I could add or subtract, but it kind of looks like I could multiply. Is that fraction bar under everything? Is it a big problem? No, right now it's not. So this one I'm not following the rules. Like I'm kicking over what I can. And what I can do is I can easily add 4. Nothing's in the way. It works out nice and neat. Okay. Now the fraction bar is a big problem. It's a huge entire divide by 2x. So I'm going to times by 2x. Opposites cancel. And on the right side, 16x. All right. Now this looks a little more normal, right? All right, well, I can't add 4. That doesn't work. I'm kind of using process of elimination. I have to kick the 1x over. Instead of a positive 1x, we're going to minus 1x. -4 and a 15. Okay. Instead of times 15, let's divide 15. Now 4 does not divide by 15. And so I've got this crazy fraction, -4/15. Now just to make sure, right, like take a moment to reflect. Fractions are okay, but I'm going to check my work. I added 4, that got me 8. I times by 2x, that got me 16. I minused 1, that got me 15. And I divided. Yeah, like I'm okay with this answer. I showed all my work. Now, grading wise, right? Like I can give you partial credit. Let's say we did 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. If you do 3 of the 4 steps right, you'll get partial credit. All right, keep hanging in there. Let's draw our line. Let's do our steps. Step 1, distribute. We want to distribute that 5. I'm just going to drop down this other side here first so I don't have to worry about it. And let's multiply. 5 times 13. Make sure if you need a calculator, you grab yours. 5 times 4. Distribute. Done. Combine. Can't combine left. They're unlike. Can't combine the right. Unlike. Move variable. Now, we wrote this one for this reason. If I say, hey, what sounds easier, adding 5 or subtracting 65? Gross, right? Like there's an obvious easier option. Instead of subtract 5m, let's add 5m. For sure, much easier. That's mental math there. Now, if you chose to subtract 65, you're not wrong. Go with it. Keep going. Our answers should look the same. Undo any addition or subtraction. Instead of plus 20, let's minus 20. Negative 35. All right, let's go with it. And my last sort of typical step, instead of instead of multiply by 70, divide 70. Oh, gross. Okay, this doesn't divide, right? It does, however, reduce. We've got a numerator and a denominator, and I want an improper fraction. It's going to remain negative. Now, your calculator will reduce this for you. If you don't know how to do that, ask, right? Calculators are good. Calculators could be your friends. If you want to think through it, both of these can be cut by 35. Negative 1/2. Negative 1/2 is the answer I want to see written there. All right, it's our last one in this section. Oh my goodness. All right, draw your line. Step 1, distribute. Negative 4. Positive 24x. Please make that positive stand out because a negative times a negative is a positive. Next step, no combining. Move a variable. Hold up, my variables are the same. This is a special one. Show me the work. Instead of positive 24x, let's minus 24x. Oh no, my letters went away. Don't stop, drop down. I need an equation statement. I need this. This is the reason why I have my word answer. Negative 22 is not even close to equaling negative 2, so therefore this is a no solution. Alrighty, I know that was a lot, and most of the examples went through the motions of those 5 steps, right? Like you can rely on those pretty heavily. It's only the couple special ones that had a big fraction bar. All right, and so this sort of concludes our equations piece. Next is inequality, so that is going to be a separate video for now. Make sure to ask questions, make sure to seek out other teachers' videos, make sure to visit the Sabre Center for extra support, make sure to ask to meet with me if you need extra support, and check out all resources, see what needs to be done on Google Classroom, and until next time, have a good one.